So the 1998 fall TV season brought us Brimstone, one of my favorite television series ever made, and it aired on Fox on Friday nights. It was cancelled after 13 episodes because, fuck you Fox. Created by Ethan Reif and Cyrus Voris, a writer-producer team that still work together to this day, and were also known as two-thirds of the screenwriting team on the Tales from the Crypt movie Demon Knight, this ill-fated show had an incredibly cool premise. In 1983, NYPD detective Ezekiel Stone's wife was raped. When he eventually caught the man who did it, Gilbert Jacks, Stone murdered him in cold blood. 2 months later, Stone was killed himself and was sent to hell. 15 years later, a mass prison break from hell sends 113 damned souls loose on Earth. Thus the devil trusts in Stone to track down and send each soul back to hell in exchange for a second chance at life on Earth. Premiering October 23rd, 1998 on the Fox network, Brimstone was paired on Friday nights with Millennium from X-Files creator Chris Carter, which regularly struggled with declining ratings. Airing as the lead-in for the primetime lineup, I caught Brimstone regularly every week, often videotaping the episodes right through to the end of its run. Melding the aspects of police procedural mystery with supernatural horror and action is perfectly my taste. Yet Brimstone never felt formulaic as it dealt with different themes and character dynamics and mythologies from episode to episode to keep it fresh, and it grew and developed its characters very nicely, using everything at hand to both motivate the individual plots and overall arcs forward. Now, the absolute best aspect of this show is the amazing chemistry between Peter Horton, who portrays Stone, and delightfully wicked John Glover as Satan himself. Glover was originally meant to be seen almost exclusively in the pilot, but he was so fantastic in the role, having excellent chemistry with Horton, that he appeared in every episode to glorious effect. His charisma, indelible charm, and fascinating twist of taking the sinister elements of Satan with utter cheer and pleasure made him an invaluable addition to the show's creative success. The show even allowed the devil to have serious moments of character insight and depth, especially when it is revealed who was behind the prison break from hell. And Peter Horton portrays Ezekiel Stone with multiple dimensions, melding the gruff and genuine street cop with an angst-filled weariness and cynical wit. However, most importantly, he retains a heartwarming quality and a different core of humanity, making him a very likable protagonist amidst a very dark premise. And Horton was apparently not greatly interested by the show's supernatural elements so much, but by the emotional aspects of Stone's internal conflicts and wounded heart. Still deeply in love with his widowed wife Rosalind, it creates a beautiful tapestry for Horton to weave his talent around into. Both brooding and endearing, it is a beautifully written role portrayed by an actor who got every nuance perfectly right and makes for a very memorable yet flawed sympathetic hero. Now, the show's pilot is one of the most atmospheric and horror-driven episodes of the series. Set in Manhattan, New York, Stone hunts down a fanatical priest from the late 19th century who kidnaps children for a frightening, twisted religious purpose. The imagery is chilling and the performance by Peter Woodward is truly unsettling, with a little tinge of psychotic charm. The pilot clearly sets the rules for Stone and the audience moving forward, such as damned souls can only be sent back to hell by destroying their eyes, which are the windows to their souls. The scenes of Stone visiting his old house and remembering his wife are very touching and heart-aching. Every beat of character, story, emotion, and premise are expertly laid out while maintaining the momentum of the plot overall. It is one of the most pitch-perfect pilots I have ever seen. Now, soon after the pilot, the show shifts locations to Los Angeles, where Stone's wife now resides as he desires to connect with her again, and the series also begins to utilize some lighter tones at times when playing up Horton and Glover's chemistry, but still retains the characterizations, quality of writing, general dramatic tone, and action of the pilot. It also begins to weave season-long recurring characters and storylines, some of which only show themselves retroactively, and added to this series is Lori Petty as Maxine, who works the front desk of the hotel Stone resides in, and she adds her usual spirited charm and gives Horton another rigor to wonderfully play off of to further his character and the episode plots along. And there are additional cool ideas injected into the series, such as the longer souls in hell, the more it literally becomes a part of them. Thus, Stone faces adversaries with supernatural powers, which Ezekiel himself shows no signs of having, after only being in hell for about a decade and a half, as opposed to the centuries that others have resided there. And the names of each of the escapees are written as tattoos on Stone's body in the Devil's own script, which vanish after each one is dispatched. And furthermore, damned souls can only be harmed by other damned souls, allowing them a sort of superhuman ability of jumping off rooftops and staying gunshots that never actually faze them. So this cleverly makes the encounters between Hell's escapees and Stone far more intense and poignant, since the only time Stone can ever be in true actual danger or peril. The 13-episode run has great consistency with stellar writing, interesting antagonists, and fresh concepts being introduced every so often. I felt the episode Slayer was a particularly awesome episode, featuring Law & Order's Richard Brooks as a Cartagenian warrior who tries to tempt Stone to join him, and between Brooks' excellent and eloquent performance and the cool action set pieces of an enemy who can appear and disappear at will, it really stood out as a rich episode that hits the ground running and really had a solid foreboding atmosphere throughout. I would say the weakest episode is Lovers, mainly due to the heavier emphasis on comedy, with the Devil giving Stone a beat-up junker of a car, which is played for laughs, including Stone sending it back to hell at the episode's end, and there is a less of a focus on horror or atmospheric elements. And this has a lot to do with the main antagonists for the episode, who are a pair of lovers who escaped hell together, who are presented as kind of playful and a bit melodramatic, and Reif and Voris, the creators of the series, more or less agree about this, as it turned into a more humorous episode by unintentional happenstance. It's not a bad episode by any means, but after so many rich and solid episodes pushing the story and character arcs forward, this is simply a breather episode. It winds things down a bit before subsequent episodes can build things back up for the remainder of the intended season. And the overall writing of this series, I believe, was absolutely superb. It created a dynamic yet consistent tone, having the main focus on the drama and chilling storylines that sometimes have a tragic air to them, yet the dark humor and wit presented throughout is such a beautiful touch to maintain a levity and kind of off-kilter sensibility to the characters. However, what gave the show the potential I felt it had for longevity was the depth in its emotional core, such as Stone grappling with having to confront his wife's rapist again, and to deal with a woman who was raped centuries ago and then murdered her rapist in return. Its dark subject matter handled with poignancy and due weight by all involved, and further storylines continued to test Stone's resolve and commitment to the mission at hand. And despite Stone initially believing that the escapees are all vile creatures, he encounters those who were victims themselves, sent to hell because they didn't abide by the eye for an eye edict that landed Stone there as well, or others who have repented their sins, seeking atonement for their damnation. And his adversaries reflect back on his character, convictions, and beliefs. And in the penultimate episode, It's a Hell of a Life, the devil walks Stone through the supposed condemnable acts he committed throughout his life that added to the sin of killing Gilbert Jacks, but an angel, also portrayed wonderfully by John Glover, attempts to show Ezekiel that his fate was never predetermined and that redemption is still possible for him. This episode also gives Stone the opportunity to see his wife Rosalind again. This, along with the finale episode Morning After, forge a touching conclusion to the series with an unexpected sense of closure. Now, I love the look of Brimstone with his blue washed-out color palette that puts an atmospheric haze to the series. There are plenty of moody, smoky visuals to enhance the mood of the dramatic and climactic sequences, and considering this is a show from the late 90s, I feel the visual effects are fairly good for the time. They are used sparingly, and they tend to look best in darker settings. When integrated into brighter environments, their limited quality does get exposed a bit more, but in general, the look and style of the show demonstrates a very clear, exciting, and focused vision from its showrunners, and it further caps off the lightning in the bottle that Reif and Voris captured here with so many incredibly and exceptionally talented individuals contributing to the richness of what Brimstone was able to become in its brief lifespan. Now, it seems like a really bad habit of the Fox network to air continuity-heavy shows out of order. Many know this later happened with Joss Whedon's Firefly, and it was done with Brimstone as well. For example, the 7th aired episode Slayer seems to feature Albert Hall's blind priest Father Horton meeting Stone in LA for the first time after their encounters in New York, but he already appeared in several of the previously aired episodes opposite Stone already established in his new parish. And because of this jumbled mess, a scene was apparently cut where Stone and LAPD Detective Ash actually meet for the first time, but since they had already interacted in an episode that aired previously, this had to be altered. It would seem as if they intended from the start to sabotage the success and coherency of the show, and it turns out that's not far from the truth. Fox Network President Peter Roth was the one enthusiastically behind Brimstone, wanting to promote it highly for a Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time slot. Sadly, he was forced to resign before the show could premiere, and the new president, Doug Herzog, supposedly wanted to overhaul the network away from drama and genre fare to comedy and reality series. Thus, this meant stuffing Brimstone away on Friday nights with little to no promotion, and all this ultimately led to its cancellation due to insufficient ratings, and reportedly this happened at the start of filming of what would have been the 14th episode. Its sister show on Friday nights, Millennium, was also cancelled months later with no proper finale. Thankfully, Chris Carter was able to give it a respectable send-off on The X-Files. On John Glover's official website, there is a section on Brimstone along with synopses on 6 additional episodes that were never produced, including the intended season finale. Well, I've heard a lengthy interview with Rieff and Voris and some mentions of a possible, maybe future film version of Brimstone. Nothing has materialized in the slightest. It has been more than a decade and a half since the show's cancellation, and I still cannot forgive Fox for doing so. Brimstone had such a wickedly expansive potential and was already such an excellent piece of work from the start that its cancellation hurts just that much more. Some of my favorite TV shows include the likes of Angel, The X-Files, and Supernatural because of that great mix of supernatural elements, detective noir, and greatly dimensional characters wrapped up in smart premises. Thus, Brimstone fits extremely comfortably into that mix, and I can only imagine what could have been if it had been given a greater chance to succeed. Many shows have very rough first seasons trying to find their footing and getting the cast to gel with everything, so it's very rare to find a show that had it all perfectly in place right from the beginning, and very sad to see that it did not last. A small consolation, however, is that John Glover did get to reprise his role as the devil on the TNT series Perception, albeit as a hallucination, but he still played it with the same delightful zeal as he did on Brimstone, and I just have to wonder if someone on Perception was indeed a fan of this cult TV series, but I have full confidence that John Glover can win any role based on his talent alone. Now, in September 2008, a Warner Home Video representative said that despite the wonderful work of Peter Horton and John Glover, there were no plans at that time to release Brimstone. Amazon has had a holding page for potential release of the series on DVD for many years, with a few dozen fans posting their support for release since 2008, with nothing to show for it. On the website TVShowsOnDVD.com, Brimstone is the 13th ranked unreleased television series as voted on by over 2,100 of its fans. It's sad to think with so many options from readily available streaming services such as Netflix, Amazon Video, and Hulu, as well as the Warner Archive manufacture-on-demand platform, that Brimstone continues to be forgotten by Warner Brothers. Brimstone even made Screen Rant's list of 20 great TV shows canceled after one season, comparing it to Supernatural and the similarly short-lived Constantine. The show has certainly not been forgotten by its fans, and it takes a uniquely strong show to have that much of a lasting memory, with only 13 episodes to its credit, and having been cancelled for longer than Zeke Stone spent in hell. Creators Reif and Voris now look back on Brimstone with a sense of purity and ironic completeness, because the show got cancelled before budgetary or logistical reasons would have forced changes to the show. You feel like Zeke has gone through an arc in these 13 episodes, and you feel like he's gained a sense of ease in terms of his heart. And lots of shows get unceremoniously cancelled on cliffhangers or awkward beats in the story arc. Brimstone at least has a final episode with some emotional resolution. If you ever get the opportunity to see Brimstone, I clearly give it a wholehearted recommendation. Not to mention the show's main title music was composed by the legendary Peter Gabriel. Not a catchy piece of music, but it is distinctly Peter Gabriel. And featuring some notable guest stars in White Collar's Tim DeKay, Law & Order's Richard Brooks, the Oscar-nominated John Hawkes, Michelle Forbes of Star Trek The Next Generation and Homicide: Life on the Street, Human Target's Mark Valley, and the X-Files' own Jerry Hardin. There was no lack of talent in front of, behind the camera on Brimstone. In the description below, there will be a few informative links about this series, including an audio interview with Ethan Reif and Cyrus Voris conducted in 2009. Both men have had a number of series with short tenures, but I hope that they will continue to get regular work and find lasting success. And many know that John Glover went on to portray Lionel Luthor on Smallville for most of its decade-long run, and Horton began producing and directing alongside acting. Brimstone was simply a great show that I hope will always be remembered by its fantastic, devoted fans. Thanks for watching, guys. Post your comments below if you've ever seen Brimstone. Share your thoughts, share the links around, hit the like buttons, and definitely subscribe if you have not. And I hope you've enjoyed Forever Horror Month so far, and look forward to a whole lot more soon. So thanks, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.